The 6 hours at the Glen is definitely among the shorter of the American classic endurance races. But the challenge has been around for a long time and saw many of IMSA's golden years in the 80s. Today, we'll get a taste of what it felt like leaning over the powder blue Armco and watching the sun gleam off the sheet metal. It's sports car racing, New York style, as we get ready to watch round 10 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes, our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, the Glen certainly has seen a resurgence in the real world with NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar all hosting major events here recently. But for our fans that aren't familiar, tell us about the track. Oh, and looks like Sean had a few technical problems, so why don't we bring up that graphic and show you what they're up against today, because they are doing it a little bit differently how they normally do. We are in Watkins, Glen, New York, of course, running the boot configuration. So they have that inner loop in there this time. 12 turns, so not many. This is a very fast course, a lot of undulations, up and down, elevation change all throughout the lap. And it's 3.4 miles. Quite a long ways around. It's going to be relatively quick, of course, with the Nissans, but the Audis will have a much harder time with them tending to understeer, especially in the long corners. To really get us a good idea of what it's like around here, why don't we go on board the GSRC lap guide? All right, we've got Philip Lake and the GSRC Nissan, so let's do a lap around Watkins Glen.
Coming down to the 90, this tends to be a great place to pass. The pitfall is it's easy to outbrake yourself and lose gobs of time on the climb up the hill. That good corner exit will be especially important in this car, where you can easily stay flat to the floor up through the S's. Minimize your steering input through here to help get every last ounce of speed as you hit the backstretch. You can see how we're absolutely flying up at the top of the hill. This is another place where passes are likely.
But the entry to the inner loop is tricky and not made for too wide racing. You've also got to be careful with your right foot as you try for that last little squirt into the carousel. Like that. The banking through this incredibly long sweeper is going to keep speed surprisingly high, and an error can send you into the Armco in a flash.
Switch sides quickly and then get ready for the chute. Things will go wrong fast if you lose it here because there's very little runoff to the outside. From there, we come to the bottom of the hill and the toe of the boot. This corner rewards the savvy and punishes the greedy. It's a steep climb on exit, so anyone who isn't able to square off the corner for a good launch will be hurting on the way back up. That will give the drivers yet another good opportunity to overtake when they hit the heel of the boot. The exit here can get a little narrow though, so leaving each other space will be important. Switch sides once again so that we can return to the main circuit. This crested off-camber left-hander is tricky no matter what car you tackle it in. Be wary on the power since the turbo lag can send you spinning into the barrier in a flash. Then comes Indianapolis. This is very much a single groove corner, and any side-by-side action through here is breathtaking. We finally hit the last corner, which is more like something out of a street course since the tire barrier is right at the edge of the track. Hopefully, you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Watkins Glen.
There's a very fast lap around the sweeping corners of Watkins Glen. Let's take a look at the driver standings, however, with it being so late in the season. And it's actually kind of surprising with it being so late in the season. Look at the points difference between Lepisto and Ritchie. Only 13, and including today, 3 rounds to go. Jamie Hall's a bit more back. It's unlikely that he'll be able to catch them before the season is out. And then, of course, Rob Olenek, 137 back from them as well out of this, along with Ihimaki, although Olenek and Ihimaki could still swap positions. Going over to the GTO driver standings, or excuse me, team standings of the GTPs. We've got the Miller High Life team up at the top, with the All-American Racers trying to give chase, but they've got a lot of work to do here at the end. Bayside Motorsports pretty solidly in third. They're not going to catch anybody. They're not going to be caught by anybody. The West team, of course, is sitting well back, 470 points back from Lepisto and Ihimaki. And then Nissan Motorsports, a whole 639 points behind them in fifth. Then we go to the GTO drivers. Sean, what's that looking like?
Hey, I'm here, Joe. Thanks.
Welcome back.
All right, let's look at those GTO standings. It's Philly Raiola. It's all about him right now. Top of the driver's standings, 701 points. It's going to be really tough for Michael Houghton to catch him here in the closing rounds of this championship. 51 points back. Ben Laughter, 113 points. That's the real battle we're looking at. Laughter and Trangerade right now. Those two slugging it out to get on the podium here in the driver's standings. Jacob Hohenkamp all the way down there, 257 points back. He'll probably hold on to that if he can just keep it on the track. So why don't we look at the team standings real quick and see where everybody's at in the GTO team standings right now. It's Team Valvoline, the Justin Berry team, Kaya Ruola and Shanahan there, 869 points to the good. But Joe, Mind Trick Motorsports, Ben Laughter, Jacob Hohenkamp have come a long way, and the Americans right now are there, just 4 points back. Spots to make up here could be done here at the Glen today. We'll see. Now, the Mind Trick Motorsports Windows team, things haven't gone quite as well for them, but they are in third, and it looks like they've got a pretty good handle on that. As Lightsinger Racing, a full 250 points behind. That might be too much of a gap for Ove Trangerade and his partner Thompson there to pick up. And that's how the GTO team standings go.
Got a few drivers who've managed to get laps in already. Most of them Nissans, obviously. Olenek leading the timing charts, and change that. Keith Ritchie is now fastest, up with a 32.8. And we're starting finally to get the GTOs to get laps in. Andy Pears up at the top ahead of Brian Shanahan. Franco Scurry tops him. Yuko Lascala is going to come across the line. He weaves fast. Last time we saw him, Vili Ruola hits the top of the timing sheets in the Audis.
Yeah, we've got to, we hadn't mentioned it yet, but we've got a stout field today, Joe. 15 Audis, 18 Nissans, a 33-car field for you today. But Vili Ruola puts in a really, really fast opening lap there to go to the top of Franco Scurry just behind him.
And that full field makes me wonder, Sean. There's plenty of long straights to try and work with traffic, but the S's, I'm sure, I'm almost certain they're flat out in the Nissans, but I have to assume that they're kind of marginal in the Audis?
Very marginal. Yeah, that climb up the hill, and then, of course, when you're turning left there, up the S is very, very tough to manage. That car really wants to track out and get a little bit too close to the wall off to the right for my liking. We could see trouble there. As you know, the S is really kind of narrow out there. It's really not a good place to be in traffic. That could be a big danger zone today. We're hearing that the bus stop, the inner loop, could be a huge parking lot for the Nissans. It's very tricky. The balance through that inner loop, very, very tricky there, Joe.
Well, while you were talking, if our viewers were watching the top of the screen with those fastest laps, it has been a slugfest between Lepisto and Ritchie. Lepisto took it, and then Ritchie took it back with a 1:32.5, 0.2 faster than his championship rival. I think that fight for the championship is on here, Sean.
Yes, sir. The fight is on indeed. This is going to be fun. We've got a 60-minute race on tap for you today here at the Glen. The full, unobliterated configuration on tap for you today. This is my favorite version of the track. I'm going to be honest, Joe. The Cup version's fun, but there's nothing like putting the boot back on this thing and doing some multi-class racing here.
Well, drivers certainly going to have to put their boots on and get through the mess of traffic today, because there is a wide speed difference between these Audis and these Nissans. If you've never watched the iRacing Kamel GT series, you're in for, I don't want to say chaos, but certainly a frantic race. As we watch Kiradine Buafia currently sitting second in qualifying. He's got one lap in. He's coming around for his second right now. Let's see if he can get ahead of Vili Ruola. He's got 0.3 to make up at the moment.
That almost seems like quite a bit, Joe. I don't know.
That's a decent gap, but it is a long lap. They're looking at a 1:48 out there in the Audis. Also, we want to give a bit of a shout out to Mr. Wilcox out there. Know that he broadcasts the rookie racing team, Jose Wilcox, right there for Iberia. Amjad, actually, our director, wants to let him know that he says hi. All right, Kiradine now coming up to Indianapolis. Fast left-hand sweeper. And then the almost street course-like final corner, Sean. This thing is punishing.
It really is, Joe. It's really tough to dial in for me, for a lot of drivers.
No room for runoff on the outside of it. And as Boafia crosses the line, he does not improve. He's about 10th slower this time around. So the best he's going to have is second place. And looking at my screen, if anybody, Ove, I believe, has both of his laps in. No, yes, he does. He has both of his laps in. And then I see Daniel Olivia is actually on his second lap, but he's run out of time. So let's go through our qualifying grid. Keith Ritchie managed to get that pole back from A.T. Lepisto, seeing if he can beat him to the championship this season. They're going to be your front row. Rob Olenek starts in third with Ardo Iamaki in fourth. Carl Jansen is back. Boy, we're in for... Oh, and he's not in the Audi this time. This is interesting. He's in the Nissans. Let's see how he does in the high downforce cars. Starts fifth. Jamie Hall will start in sixth. Then you go to row 4. Philip Lake will be seventh, and Clayton McLeod in eighth. Nicholas Mukanos starts in the ninth position, followed by Fabian Jungbluth in 10th. Radek Sakura will be 11th with John Keefe in 12th. P13 goes to John Hill, 14th Hideki Koivisto, 15th David Miller, and then the last of our Nissans with a lap time is Udo Stachowiak in 16th.
All right, Joe, and let's go with Ville Riola here on the pole for our Audi 90 GTOs, and Caroline Boafia in second. Ove Trendgrade going to be there on the inside of row 2 with Franco Scurry in fourth. Andy Pers going to start fifth. Michael Houghton going to start sixth today. Yuko Lascala will start seventh. Eighth going to go to Pedro Ferreira. Ninth, Brian Shanahan. 10th, Ben Laughter. Riley Thompson, 11th. Marco Kika. 12th, Jose Wilcox. 13th, 14th, going to go to Daniel Mayor Oliva. And Spencer Kemble is going to round out the 15-car field. And then you've got Dave Peterson and Jeff Oakley, who didn't take times there in your Nissans, and they'll start at the back of the Nissan grids there, just up in front of the GTOs.
Indeed, they will have a split start. Drivers will typically give a little bit of space between the classes so that they don't run into one another. Now, we might have a few first-time viewers who've never seen the iRacing Camel GT series, so don't we bring up the details of the race so that you can get familiar. They do have 4 drop rounds for the Drivers' Championship and 6 drop rounds for the Team Championship, and this is round 10 of 12. Like I said, we are towards the end of things now. This is an endurance race. Normally, they run 40 minutes, and this is a 60-minute race, which means, Sean, today we can expect pit stops.
Yes, we can.
Sadly, don't have Johan with us today, so could have used him for that. Incident cap, there is none in this series. A bit unique in that respect. That is decided by the series community itself. They figured that these cars tend to take enough damage if you wreck them that there's no point in the incident cap anyways. They are scoring it by the official iRacing points, however, so what they get after the race from iRacing goes towards the points that we're showing to you in the intro here on our show. Pace lap now underway, and we hit the fast backstretch, the top of the hill, Sean, where they're really going to let it unwind.
Yeah, and you're really going to see some passing opportunity up here on this backstretch. Long straight, always a fight down to that inner loop. You'd probably prefer to have that inside position as you hit that inner loop, but you know what? It depends on the car. Certainly when we see the Nissan and the Audi get side by side, it's going to be a test of will when they get down there. Who's going to want to hit that entry first? So again, that could be a problem area. Hopefully it isn't, but this opening lap will probably give us a good idea of what it's really going to be like. And as I see the field go around, it looks like they are separated now by in distance. The Nissans back to the Audis. It looks like they separated himself by about the width of that bus stop. So that should be enough space to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We got a little bit of time, so why don't we take a glance at the weather, the conditions the drivers are dealing with. 76 degrees air temperature, beautiful New York day, but out on the track surface itself, 103 degrees. That sunny sky, clear sky, is really heating up the tarmac, and drivers could be struggling in a few spots. This is a bit of a bumpy course in places, Sean, so For the Nissan particularly, I have to imagine that heat is going to prove a problem as the race goes on.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to take its toll on the tires. You're going to, not that they need any help, but you're going to have to take care of them today. This can be a bit of a tire eater here at this track with the chute and the carousel itself. Really, really tough on tires down there in the toe, hard braking zone, not much grip. You're going to have to be careful here today and not chew those things up too much. I don't expect anybody to take any when they come in for a pit. So I think I think you're going to want to, like I said, try and take care of them to the end. And those who do are probably going to be the ones that we see towards the front.
We'll find out who is Twinkle Toes out there today. Keith Ritchie leads the way in his Silk Cut Jaguar Nissan. As the roof pace car peels off onto the front stretch and immediately takes off. And in fact, he leaves Lepisto in the dust. Rob Olenek already looking to the inside. Bit of a battle behind them. They're going to be 2 by 2 down into the 90. Lepisto's not giving it up, but Olenek carries the speed off the corner. But we've got to go to the Audis now.
Olenek gets a great start right out in front of Boafia. They drop in line right with each other. Ove Trendgrade, Franco Scurry get right in line. Also, the rest of the field kind of starting to drop in that way. We got a couple went side by side through the 90, but everybody looks to be clean here as we head through the S's.
Yeah, it almost looked like that Shanahan and Houghton clanged doors coming through the 90. Now, we got a lot of smoke. Oh, and that's Udo Stachowiak. And he is going to pull off the course and take a tow. Now, I'm not sure how he blew his engine, unless he took a hard hit somewhere that we didn't see.
Possibly downshifting there to the inner loops.
No, it was before he even got to the inner loop that it blown up. Anyways, we'll go and look at it later. Oh, and Clayton McLeod, the Canadian, has a problem coming out of the chute. Sends it into the tires on the inside of the corner. That, to me, says turbo lag. We'll get it confirmed here on the replay. There you go. Oh, he got helped around. Started to lose it, and then was that Hill that got into him? Mukanos, actually.
Yeah, Nick Mukanos gets just a piece of that. Let's go on board with him, yeah.
Yeah, Mukanos, he did a good job avoiding as much as he did. Honestly, that just erupted immediately in front of him. Meanwhile, up at the front, Keith Ritchie, still our leader in the Nissans, and Vili Rolla is our leader in the GTOs. We already have one lap done. There you see Olenek giving chase on to Keith Ritchie. Lepisto not just slipping down from second place. Ihamaki, his teammate, has gotten by. There you see the two Miller Porsches running line astern as they come up through the S's. So Lepisto goes from second to fourth in a lap.
Boy, we got a pretty well-behaved GTO field here to start this race. I think a lot of them got the memo that we're running for 60 minutes today, Joe. A lot of guys just taking care of the car right now.
Doesn't surprise me too much. Kirda and Boafia trying to give chase on Vili Ruola. But as he's looking ahead, he needs to look behind as well, because Ove Trangarade keeps closing in. And that bright blue machine as we ride on board with the Scandinavian coming through the inner loop now. Then down into the carousel we go.
Really got to keep it tight to that carousel to set up a really good run here down into the chute, Joe.
One of the tighter corners on this track. Ove not able to do anything, but a little bit farther down in a battle for fifth in that class, Andy Pears and Yuko Lascala. We saw Yuko show up last week and really show himself to be a fast driver, Sean. Kind of wonder if he'll be moving up the order as the race goes on here.
Well, he tried back there in the chute. Maybe he'll take another gander here in the heel. And not close enough, but there he goes to the inside again.
Pears is way off that apex, so we ride on board with Pears. And then, of course, the ever-frustrating turn 9, that off-camber corner. Just not easy to hit the line. Still nothing that it seems Yuko can do to try and get by, just holding position for now. As you said, they're going to get lots of opportunities, especially when traffic starts coming through.
Just behind them, Brian Shanahan got by Ben Lafter they were side by side there in the heel, and Shanahan just with a he's kind of strong-armed him, to be honest. He got around Ben fighting back, though.
Certainly not giving up on him as they come back up the hill, keeping it within check. And you can see one of the many Commodore cars that Ben is driving just behind Shanahan. Oh, and he's got a fantastic run coming off the final right-hander. Look at him gain down the straight, but he brakes very early, not willing to try and send it too wide into the inner loop. So looks like Laughter is going to stay in ninth for now.
Wow, what a magnificent start to this race for both classes, Joe. Been really, really clean here over the first couple laps.
And speaking of the other class, in the Nissans, Ihimaki has found his legs. Rob Olenek is looking under threat by the Finn. This is for second place. Drivers allowed to use that runoff on the exit of turn 1. Of course, you see them swing wide. Basically, as long as they don't go into the grass, Sean, they're okay. Right on board. And getting on the binders. The drivers are saying that this inner loop is really hairy for this Nissan.
Yeah, Joe, they don't get below 100 miles an hour going through that inner loop. They're hitting that at a pretty good clip.
That's impressive. Amazing what this car can do. Every time I see it at a different track, it just impresses me with its cornering speed. Now hitting the lowest point on the circuit there, into the toe of the boot, and then climbing back up the hill. The good news for these guys is they are not losing touch with our leader, Keith Ritchie. Olenek staying within about 1.1 of our overall leader. Now they return to the main course. This is where NASCAR runs once again. Really not much that Ihimaki is able to do, even though he's closed in and lessened that gap. Just doesn't seem to be able to get it down to that last little inch that he needs to try and make an attack.
Man, I think Buafia is he was a little bit too worried about Ruola. Here comes Ove Trengrade. He is primed to make a move here. He picked up a lot of time on Carradine up the straight there, Joe. And I'll tell you what, right now, Ove Trengrade, I think he smells blood in the water up here.
I'm sure that he's just waiting for Carradine to maybe make an attack on Vili, have it go wrong, see if he can slip one up the inside when Buafia is distracted. We ride on board with Trengrade now, trying to overcome a little bit of disappointment earlier this morning. He blew an engine while fighting for first in the Lotus 49 series, and that threw away his championship hopes in that series. So he's out of that one. This one, not so much in the Drivers' Championship, but still, he is obviously able to fight for wins and probably wanting some redemption.
Hey, listen, Watkins, Glen, a great place for redemption, Joe. Okay, listen, let's face it, this is a familiar track to many that have been on iRacing. It's probably one of the older tracks on the service, and you have a lot of opportunities to run this track in a lot of different series. So get out here, have some fun, and take advantage of the fact that maybe you know this place maybe a little bit better than the guy in front of you.
As we look off the gearbox of Vili Ruola, up towards the top of the course. You know, it only just occurred to me as we had a few close-up shots of Buafia's car. I didn't realize until now he's painted it to look like a Dodge Challenger.
Yes, Joe. Got some Dodge power under the hood of that Audi.
Oh, boy. Ooh, look at him close in. Very strong. Down into the chase. Carradine Buafia. Well, forget what we were talking about him worrying over Ove Trengrade. He is now on the attack. And maybe it's Vili Ruola who needs to be looking in his mirrors.
Yeah, he kind of just invalidated my argument there for Ove Trengrade making a race out of this. But listen, these three have done a great job starting this race. They've gotten out to about a 3-second break, and and really made it about them right now. So good job of doing that here early, because guess what? It's not going to be long. And, well, the Nissan... The Nissans are going to be making it. In fact, they found some of the end of the traffic here in the GTO field already.
Yeah, Keith Ritchie is working his way through, and actually we might want to look at the battle for second, because Olenek, Iamaki, Lepisto, and Carl Jansen all close tight together. In fact, Jamie Hall is in this too, as they have to weave their way through the GTO cars. This could cause a little bit of havoc.
Wow. Okay, we're lucky to get through, but our leader, Keith Ritchie, here he comes. He's coming up on more traffic down into the 90. He's going to hit plenty of it, and it's going to be right in front of him here in the S's, Joe.
Yeah, Marco Kika up first. Wow, look at him dive to the inside using the ground effects of that car. Oh my goodness, and they're going to catch him in the S's. Here comes the battle for second on some of these Audis. So we continue to ride on board our leader. Pretty much everybody seems to be able to get through there safely. Incredible stuff. Oh, but Olenek, wow, way late to try and get past Riley Thompson, and the car behind him actually takes to the grass to get out of the way. That was Pedro Ferreira.
Pedro just didn't want to get run over, man. I think that was more about preservation than anything, Joe.
Antti Lepisto lost a spot to Jansen, almost losing a spot to Jamie Hall as he tries to go side by side. That's Brian Shanahan trying to make way for all of these Nissans. Just a flood of prototypes streaming through. Ben Laughter now letting them by around the outside of the toe of the boot.
That was great work by Brian Shanahan there, letting those guys get through there, Joe.
And in all of this, Keith Ritchie has lost about half of his lead. It's now down to half a second between himself and Olenek. Olenek starting to put some distance between himself and Iamaki, who's now more worried about Carl Jansen.
Boy, Jansen didn't waste any time getting the Radicals online paint job up there on that Nissan, did he?
Certainly didn't. And I think his time in the Formula Renault has shown him how to handle these high downforce cars. We've seen him in the Audi in this series. But he's fast in just about whatever you toss him into. Look at all the traffic that they've got to deal with. He rocks up to the back of the Iamaki. That's Andy Pears. They've got to get inside of. They're boxed in because Yuko is trying to get inside of him. Whoa! Barely sneaks through there. Oh, contact!
That did not end well.
Both cars hitting the wall. Another one, that's Michael Houghton, gets into him. And that was started by Jansen, I want to say.
Boy, they're still in the middle of the track.
Yeah, Jansen was trying to sneak to the inside of Yuko. Yuko did not expect him to get in there. And you could see that sent both of those Audis tumbling in a place where there is just no runoff and nowhere to go.
Well, let's go to Andy Pears. Let's do it from his point of view here. There's Yuko right in front of him.
When they both got hit separately, it looked like, because Pears started spinning at the same time.
I'm wondering if Pears saw that happening and he actually jammed on the brake a little bit, and that's what actually sent him around. I don't know if he actually made contact there. It's close, but both cars are junk now. And boy, was that Michael Houghton? I think that hit.
It was indeed.
His car's junk too, so he's going to be out here struggling.
Bad to see drivers out so early. They could still come back and try to get a few laps in, but the battle is not over at the top of the Nissans. And Lepisto comes in. He must have made some contact somewhere that we missed. Unless, oh, no, this is early pit strategy maybe. I think this is scheduled.
Well,
I think it was ahead of the incident that happened in the S's. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find out soon.
I thought he was, Joe.
Meanwhile, there's our leader, but a battle for second as Iamaki slips to the inside of Olenek through the inner loop. He stops the bleeding before Jansen can sneak by. But give second to Iamaki after starting this race in fourth. It's been a good day for the Finn. It's exciting stuff. And the Nissans pretty much all race long as these drivers from second back to about 6th or 7th, just have not been able to separate themselves. And you can see it looks like Olenek struggling a little bit now, going wide off of the toe of the boot. Carl Jansen gets a run on him, but he's not going to try and stick his nose in.
Joe, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary on Lepisto. I'm going to be really honest with you. I think that was a scheduled stop for him. It was a quick stop. Yeah, I think that was a scheduled stop for him, and boy, it's going to be real close. Let's see if he can make it to the end.
We are getting some information saying that it might have been a stop-and-go penalty, but I'm not sure for what, unless he cut the course and just didn't give enough time back. Unusual. We'll have to try and get some information on that in case anybody stops into our booth to talk to us about what's happening in that Miller Porsche team. Meanwhile, John Keefe also coming in. See, I'm starting, the way that this is going, I'm starting to think a number of the Nissans are just playing early strategy calls to get out of the traffic.
That was my first thought about Lepisto coming in as well. All right, maybe he wants to get out of some of this traffic.
Keefe hits his stall. So we watch this battle for first in the GTO still going on. They've been separated slightly, and they're going to be brought back together by the traffic. Radek Sikora seems to have gotten in the way of our GTO leader under braking. And now look at how close Kiradine Boafi is. We ride on his dash.
Yeah, Boafi is right there. Ove Trendgrade lost touch just a little bit. More traffic coming through just behind. Here comes Clayton McLeod. Going to get into this mix. Going to catch him here going down the hill.
Is he going to try and get both of them, though? He's only going to get one. He's going to separate them. Weaves around the outside of Villirola. But it does not have enough momentum, and he's going to have to dodge back through. And the gap increases yet again.
Well, that's really risky to try and take him on the outside there in the toe, Joe. That Audi really wants to track out to the left, and Clayton McLeod just barely gets through, but definitely slowed him down.
43 minutes left to go on the clock. We're out of a quarter of the way through this 60-minute race. If you're just joining us, this is round 10 in the iRacing Camel GT Series. We're at Watkins Glen. Your leader up in the Nissans, Keith Ritchie, has been leading since the drop of the green. Same thing with Villirola, who leads the GTO class, currently down in the Audis. Battle for fifth in the prototypes. Jamie Hall, Philip Lake. These two teammates for the Texaco Haviland team. Saw a little bit of Jamie Hall earlier. He was much closer to the battle for second, but has since dropped back. Seems like traffic has been a major player in the gaps between cars today.
On board with Hall here on our 007 cam.
He's looking back at his teammate. That's Philip Lake, trying to regain ground on him, but right now they're just about dead even. Seem to be running pretty similar pace between the two machines. Suspect maybe a bit of a shared setup between them as well. Oh, way off the apex though for Jamie Hall coming through turn 9. He's going to hand a couple of tenths away.
Maybe he tried to get in and around the lake there. Just the thought.
Car certainly feels like a boat through that corner. We got another driver in. I believe that's Carl Jansen. Jansen affecting his strategy now. Let's see. I believe we've had a couple drivers that were around him. Lepisto was near him, so is Lepisto going to be able to jump him? He's our highest pitter at the moment, and he's coming around the 9th corner, now up to Indianapolis. He has a bit of traffic in the form of Ove Trangarade up ahead. That might cost him a little time here.
Jansen is off out of the stop, back on track.
And well ahead of him. Actually, wow, Jansen came out smelling like roses on that one. I thought for sure that Lepisto would be ahead of him, but Jansen seems to... Let's see, what do their pit stop times look like between them?
Well, Yeah, they practically identical. Joe, the Delta for Jansen was a 39.9 and the Anti-Lapisto was a 39.8.
So it all must have been on track. I'm guessing traffic played a little bit nicer with Jansen than it did with Lapisto. Fascinating stuff, how this strategy is really coming into play in this one. We don't get to see that a lot in this series since it's typically a sprint race with no pit stops. It's all down to how you manage yourself out on track.
You know, we did get a taste of that in our coverage of the D24 there for the major series, Joe, at Daytona, and them running over almost 2.5 hours there. It was nice to get to see the drivers work a little bit of strategy with these Nissans and Audis. We just, like you said, we just don't get a lot of experience with it because these races are limited to generally the 45-minute variety.
We're watching this battle between Pedro Ferreira and Marco Kika. This is for 9th in class. Kika really being hounded by Pedro. Thought he maybe would have had a good opportunity into the chute, but a defensive line from Marco kept him at bay. As we ride on board with Kika. Up into the heel of the boot. And a little bit too far back this time to make an attack on him. So,
yeah, it's not a bad battle, but boy, I'll tell you what, I'd like to see Pedro maybe pick up the pace just a little bit. Try and get up to him and then maybe make a move to get around him. And this might be it right here. Coming out of the final turn. Can Pedro do something here? Just a little bit slower out of the turn there, Joe, and not able to get in the toe necessarily to make a move here down into the 90.
Meanwhile, Carl Jansen is running into traffic that has yet to pit. And that includes John Hill, who he easily slips by on the outside of the toe of the boot. This, I wonder if this is going to affect Carl's strategy in comparison to drivers like Richie, though, who we're still waiting to come in for his scheduled stop. Because Richie is only dealing with the Audi traffic, but now Jansen has to work around cars within his own class who aren't getting the blue flag, mind you, either, because they are on the same lap. Watch him complete yet another of those laps, getting close to the halfway point now. Up next to him, you can see the fin of Hideki Koivisto.
Joe, the GTO leaders are in for a big battle here right behind him. You've got Oakley, Jungbluth, and Peterson. They're all fighting.
Wow. Jungbluth deep on the brakes down into the final corner, and that's going to work out for him. Meanwhile, behind them, still side by side between Peterson and Oakley. Peterson's got the inside into the first corner. Coming up on those GTO leaders, he gets one, but not two. He's given room at the apex by Rolla. Oh, gets chopped off coming up into the S's, though. Big checkup from Peterson.
Rolla said, that is my line. I'm taking it.
Not interested in giving way at this point with him being a battle for the lead. Especially considering Peterson right now is fighting for 15th in his class. I think Roll is calling seniority on that one.
Got a little bit of breathing room for Boafia there, but Boafia took advantage of some of that Nissan's draft at the straight and was able to get back here towards Rolla. Now Rolla's got to be careful because David Miller, that car looks to be blinking just a little bit, and looks like he's okay now that he's gotten past.
As this is happening, we don't have to go to it. Jamie Hall has come in for his stop. Another one of our upper mid-pack cars working with their strategy now. So Villi Rolla leads the way in the GTOs. This is the fight that's been going up at the top of this class since the drop of the green, effectively. Almost wonder, Sean, if I'm surprised we don't see one of these guys come in and maybe use strategy to try and leapfrog or build a gap, depending on which driver you are, on the other.
Yeah, you know what? That is an interesting idea. I mean, they're going to have to do something to make up some time, right? So you start pulling for straws there. That might be one strategy that might work for you.
Because Kiradine is just a little bit stuck behind Rolla for now. Hasn't been able to really make any serious moves that we've seen on the fin.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with Ville, though. He hasn't made any mistakes, Joe. It's looked fairly effortless, even when there's been traffic. That move to take the line away a moment ago coming up through the S's, that looks pretty routine for him. But, as I say that, Buafia, again, getting back to the tail here and still got great pace. This is going to be a great battle, I think, right to the very end. Going back to what you said a moment ago, I think the pit stops are going to play a huge role in how this thing shakes out for these two.
Well, meanwhile, down in 8th in the prototypes, Quevisto has been caught by Janssen, but Janssen has been caught by Lepisto, who moves to the inside and decisively gets past him. Wow, he made that look way too easy, actually. I'm shocked that Janssen gave that up. I'm trying to figure out if maybe that was intentional or what, because he ran him down for one, and two, there was almost no hesitation as now they get past Quevisto through to the inside of the inner loop. Oh, little mistake from Lepisto. Janssen takes a look, but has to get back in line. Whoa, another mistake. And this time, it gives it away as Janssen sneaks by Lepisto through the chute and gets himself into 8th. Oh, Iamaki with some trouble in the final corner.
Big trouble. He slides all the way off.
And that involved our GTO leader. Sorry to cut you off there. He got into the side of Buafia. Watch this. And then Buafia has to check up not to run into him.
Wow.
Big damage on Iamaki, unfortunately, with that clatter to the inside wall. It might have been okay if he had not gotten into the Armco.
Yeah, and Buafia is going to get away, or not get away without damage. He's got some pretty significant damage on the right side of that car. Here it is on the replay.
Oh, and you know what? We can't put too much blame on Iamaki because Buafia, we heard on screen, he missed a gear.
Boy, that's a shame.
Easy to do in these cars, though, we should point out. For those that haven't driven one of these before, the Audi notorious for having a finicky gearbox.
Yeah, and we've come to find out the Nissan doesn't have a really fun gearbox either, Joe. So...
Well, this moves Ove Trangarade into 2nd now. He's about 4.5 seconds behind Ville Ruola, so not in the same position that Kiradine was to try and challenge for the lead. But we've seen it all in the iRacing Kamel GT Series. Traffic comes in swings and roundabouts. You just never know until the checkered flag falls, almost to halfway. With Iamaki's problems, Philip Lake, I believe, has moved past him on track, and neither of them have stopped, if I'm recalling correctly. Speaking of which, Iamaki, you can see, now down pit lane.
You know, Joe, I think Franco Scurry has got a problem, and it's the long, tall Texan of Michael Houghton back there is closing, and a little bit of traffic separated him there for just a moment, but Houghton's pace has been good here. It's been better than Scurry's, and boy, if I'm Franco, you know what? Maybe it's time to bring her in and get that pit stop out of the way. We've seen one scheduled pit stop from the Audis. It was Pedro Ferreira back in the field, but I would definitely say the window is open right now for these Audis to come in, but this is a good battle, and it gets... boy, it sure gives Houghton a chance to get one step closer to the podium. Kiradine Buafia, that damage he's got on the right side of that car. Don't know how long he can hold on up there on that 3rd spot.
Good news for Kiradine is he is well ahead of these guys. as we watch him try to track him down. We've also got a bit of a battle brewing between Olenek and Lake. I'll butt in if that... oh, and actually we switched over to it already. Coming up to complete one more lap. There you can see it is Olenek ahead in the Toyota, and behind in the other black car, Lake in the Texaco Haviland Nissan. Lake has been, well, up and down the order, it seems like today, Sean.
Yeah, he has. Not the most consistent day for him. It's maybe been a bit of a slog here at Watkins Glen, but you know what? We've got now 30 minutes left to go, Joe. I think, you know what? There's still time.
Boy, oh, that's tight. That is Daniel Oliva and Pedro Freire, who were in a battle for position, mind you, that Lake was trying to squeeze through. He, I mean, it's understandable. He's trying to keep touch with Olenek, and actually it did cause him to lose out significantly.
Joe Caradon Bawafia in the pits. Oh, trouble.
Pedro, yep, number 25. Goes a little bit too wide. We're going to see on the replay coming out of the chute. You may have four-wheel drive, but this is not a rally car, unfortunately.
This car likes to track out, Joe, and boy, it tracked out a little bit much right there and too much of the grass, and he's around.
Well, thankfully, he wound up pointed the right direction. It can be so tough with the narrow walls, trying to get a car pointed the right way and doing a K-turn just to get going again. So Pedro locked out. Meanwhile, Olenek has lost position to Philip Lake. That's because he's come into the pits, actually. So where is Olenek going to come out? He's been in second place for much of this race. Jansen and Lepisto are highest pitters. Lepisto sitting in sixth, and he's actually coming up to Indianapolis now.
Now, Joe, during all that excitement, Caradon Bawafia came in the pits. He's still there. Now going on a minute, almost 2 minutes in there. So,
and Lepisto's going to get him. Lepisto is through. Olenek's still stationary. Olenek still hasn't moved. Jansen is by. Hall is by. I think maybe Olenek had a speeding penalty, judging by the amount of time he spent in his stall.
Well, it's double the time everybody else has been in the stall there, Joe, or thereabouts. I'm going to assume it's a penalty.
These cars do not have a pit limiter, as we see Hall has gotten past up into sixth. That's Jansen that he's gotten by. Jansen not giving up the ghost, continuing to hound Hall, seeing if he can reclaim it as he really explores the track limits. Got to be careful dipping your wheels off into the grass in this car, I would think. All right, our leader is now in. You may have noticed, and you'll see it right here, that Iamaki still in the pits. So Iamaki seems to have called it a day, unfortunately. Richie hits his spot nice and clean. Philip Lake as well has come in.
Brian Shanahan coming out of the pits here. Right behind him, Marco Kika. Kika with or Shanahan with the longer stop still gets out in front of Kika. Shanahan will be the lead car here of the ones that have pitted in the GTO field. Currently, what, a minute and 20 seconds behind our leader, Billy Raiola.
All right, Richie has exited, and so has Philip Lake. Now, we do have a couple cars we're waiting to pit, so the lead temporarily goes to Radek Sakura, and then Clayton McLeod in second. Then you get to Keith Ritchie in third. Interestingly, Lepisto ahead of Lake, but not by much.
Ooh. Sorry, Joe. Here comes Houghton trying to take that third spot away from Franco Scurry down into the 90. Houghton on the inside.
Can he get the run off the corner? That's the critical part. And yes, he does. firmly plants his foot. Up through the S's they go. Give P3 to Michael Houghton.
He's been setting it up for a little while. Does a really, really good job of finally pulling it off. Houghton dealing with a little bit of damage on the left front, too. Still got that car moving along pretty well.
Yeah, can't forget the contact that he experienced earlier in this race.
Riley Thompson's in. He just came in ahead of Jose Wilcox there in 6th.
And I saw that looked like former second place Kirdai Boafia. Oh, and actually, Boafia, is he in a long stop here?
Yeah, he's still in there. I don't show that he's actually disconnected, but the repair got to be very long on that car.
Disappointment for Boafia. We watch Clayton McLeod's temporarily second place. In fact, very temporary, because here comes Keith Ritchie. And Ritchie, with the pace that he's shown today, I don't think this is going to take long for him to move ahead of the driver who is yet to pit. Working their way through the carousel. They're already approaching our leader, Radek Sakura, as well. So actually, this is going to be for the lead here in a moment. And look at this. Ante Lepisto is now on the back of these three. Things could get interesting. How patient is Ritchie willing to be when he's got a car that is on the same strategy, or at least similar enough strategy to him, breathing down his neck for position? Understand that Ben Lafter has come in for his stop as well.
Just pulled down. Yep, Joe, he's in his box, getting service now.
So we continue to watch this fight for first. Ritchie trying to get P2 before he gets there. McLeod stretches it out through Indianapolis, and out into the final turn they go. All about dead even as they come back to the main straight and plunge back downhill into the 90.
Laughter down and away, coming out of the pit exit now. He's got David Miller right behind him.
Oh, and things are going to get interesting. A horrible exit out of the 90 for Sakura. Here comes McLeod looking around the outside, but his momentum is interrupted. That means Keith Ritchie now has a run. He ducks to the inside. Are we going to go 3 wide for the lead? No, he lifts.
Yes.
Clayton McLeod looking for P1, down into the inner loop. Out breaks Sakura. Sakura holds on a second. Ritchie closing up. Lepisto closing up. Whoa, big moment coming out of the corner for Clayton McLeod. Catches the car. Here comes Sakura to get the spot back. And in one corner, he loses it. The next corner, he regains it.
This is exciting, Joe.
And it's now a 5-car battle for the lead. Here comes Philip Lake into the fray. We saw on the lap guide how hard it is to get the power down out of that inner loop. Clayton McLeod experienced it. He's under attack. Keith Ritchie looking to the inside. McLeod late on the brakes to defend. Hurts him on the exit, though. Here comes Ritchie. He's on the wrong side of an off-camber corner. Can he use the ground effects to try and sneak through? No, he can't. We'll look to the inside to Indianapolis. Not enough.
Joe Franco scurries in his pit. Ben Lafter coming around. I don't know if he's going to be able to get there and catch him.
And remember, we have to keep in mind in this battle that we're watching, Sakura and McLeod have yet to pit. So they're fighting for position, and they're allowed to, but they are going to have to give this up eventually. And all this is doing is letting Ritchie, Lepisto, and Lake stay stuck together.
Scurry. I'm sorry, Joe. Scurry coming out of the pits. Lafter right there at the 90. Scurry going to exit right behind Ben Lafter. Lafter going to take over the 4th spot. These are cars that have pit.
We'll have to keep track of between the two classes. We'll try and jump back and forth when we can to try and catch the action. There you see, there's those GTO cars, 4th and 5th.
Your top 3 still need to take a stop. Villarreal, Trengerade, and Houghton.
Meanwhile, traffic up ahead of our prototype leaders. That's Spencer Kimball. He's going to move to the outside, let them through. He's got no one to battle. Doesn't want to get in the way of this. Richie's got another run on McLeod, though. Still working on that second place. And still, McLeod strong on the brakes. I said this was going to be quick work, but I've been proved wrong here, Sean. And this is on old tires for McLeod, too.
Yeah, even more impressive. I was going there next, Joe. You know, I got to admit, we do a lot of these races. We don't generally see this many Nissans fighting for that top spot here as we get into the end of this race.
Very unusual for this series. Riding from the chopper cam. Bit of a look from Lepisto. He's starting to run out of patience. He wants to try and see if he can overtake him, knowing that's going to become P1 once these other two cars pit. Or at least I would assume he knows. Sometimes you just don't, with all the strategy that goes on, you don't know if those cars ahead really are there for legitimate position. Down to the inside, into the inner loop. Richie fully alongside. They're going to go door to door. This is oh so hard through this chicane, and he can't pull it off. Can he keep his nose in through the inner loop? No, he can't, but look behind them. Lepisto almost loses out to Philip Lake. He regains it, carrying his momentum on the high side. Sticks his nose in on Richie and gets chopped off in the chute.
Hard racing, man.
I was gonna say, the Club West driver does not play around. You got to be careful about how marginal your pass attempts are.
Just checking back up with the GTO leader, Villarola comes back around, Joe, for a...
Sorry, a battle on screen there, and Richie finally gets it done, or does he? He's going to be on the outside of turn 9, and credit to Clayton McLeod. He gave him a car's width at the apex and no more, and they both made it through.
I'm going to use this blanket statement real quick. Everything's fine in the GTO field, okay? We'll just stay with this. Michael Houghton in the pits. As I say that, there is action. Yeah, one of our final GTOs needing to come in. Houghton is in. But, hey, listen, Houghton was already way far back behind Trengade and Ruola. It's going to be tough for Houghton to... He's just got to hang on to that third spot right now and hope that Ben Laughter doesn't catch him.
You see it on screen. Lepisto fell behind Lake. A big mistake coming into the 90. And we're going to watch the replay. This was... he is actually making an attempt on McLeod, it looks like, and just got caught out. You see, he looks to the inside, and then suddenly, oh, this is not going to work. Has to straight line it. Bad exit from him. There goes Lake. Now that Richie has left McLeod behind, he set his sights on Sakura. And again, Sakura needs to pit still. 18 minutes left to go on the clock. Look at this battle for third behind them. McLeod desperately trying to hold on. He knows that it could help him down the line, even though he's not going to be able to retain these positions due to his pit stop.
Leader's in. Villarola is in. And boy, that really slowed down John Hill, who was right behind him there coming out of the final turn.
There you see our leader, the Finn, coming in now.
Trengade decides to stay out another lap. He's going to push it here. He'll take over the lead. It's the first time anybody else has been in the lead in the GTO field for this race.
Will, of course, hand that back once strategy plays itself out. Meanwhile, battle for the lead in the prototypes. Up the hill, Keith Ritchie's in the slipstream. Ducks to the outside. How much is Radek going to fight? He took it back from McLeod earlier when McLeod took it, but he's oh so early on the brakes. In fact, that was a lift, I think. Behind them, Philip Lake gets past McLeod. Lake moves himself into third. This is incredible stuff. Look at all the prototypes that are up in this fight.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is really, I said it a little while ago, this is one of the best prototype fights we've seen in quite some time here, Joe, on this broadcast.
Cloud has been fighting tooth and nail just to see what he can do if any of these cars maybe makes a mistake. Now coming up into traffic. This is the Audi of Pedro Ferreira trying to make his car invisible as best he can. Look at the sea of prototypes just streaming by him. This is just an unreal traffic jam that we've never seen up at the front. And now that Richie is past all this traffic, he's extended the gap to about 2 seconds. He's going to run away with this. And as I say that, you can see that blue car is Ove Trangarade in. And we lost some prototypes from the fight. McLeod and Lepisto.
Boy, that's a shame. That really is a shame that had to happen.
What happened here? Oh, you know what? I think McLeod was coming in for his pit stop. Lepisto didn't expect it. And he just gets into the back of him. We're going to watch from Jansen's viewpoint. He had a front row seat.
Yeah, I don't know if Clayton was coming in or that was just a little bit of a run at him there.
He was very low on the line. Whew, scary stuff.
And really fortunate for Jansen to get by.
Well, this puts Lepisto down into 7th. Clayton McLeod, of course, having to get a few repairs and take his stop, returns in 10th. So now that, well, no, pit stops are still not completely done because Radek is still out there in 3rd.
Well, we're finished over in the GTO field, I can tell you that. Trangrade came in, had a nice clean stop, but it was a little bit longer than Billy Rola's, and Rola takes his spot back.
So down to the last 15 minutes of this 60-minute race. As we wait for our very last car to finally take his pit stop. And the prototypes, and Sakura might have to take it right now, as that Nissan goes around. And yes, just going to take it right into the pits. Not the smoothest of entries that we've seen.
No.
We're going to watch on board. Coming through Indianapolis, the fast left-hand sweeper, now the final corner. And this is where the panic moment happens. Wow, he got a lot of curb, and that's what did it.
Yep. Really easy to unsettle the Nissan basically over any curb, Joe, as we found out over time here. It doesn't really like curbs at all. And that just was enough. It's a high-speed turn, and it was just enough to upset the car.
Here we see Jamie Hall trying to fend off Carl Jansen. I'm not sure if we want to try and sneak in a rundown of the top 5 of each class.
We could try.
Let's see if this battle gets any hotter. They're going to work around the traffic in the form of Daniel Oliva. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be able to get it right now. So let's duck away for a moment. Go up to our prototype leader, Keith Ritchie. Has not led every lap, mind you, but is back to the lead easily by about 1.5 seconds. He's got Philip Lake trying to chase him down. This has been a great job by Lake. Even though he slipped down the order earlier on, he's recovered beautifully to get into second. He's followed by Jamie Hall, who rounds out our podium. And as we mentioned, he has to fend off Carl Jansen, who sits in 4th, less than 0.3 of a second behind him. Then the end of our top 5, actually not far behind these two, is Rob Olenek. Let's go to the GTOs.
All right, and it's Villarreal who is back at the top after his pit stop, getting by Ove Trengarade, who currently sits in 2nd, just 6.5 seconds behind Michael Houghton in 3rd. And, well, Houghton's got quite a ways to go to catch them. He's 25 seconds behind Ove Trengarade. But you know what?
Houghton, whoa! Sorry, the Jansen got spun off through the inner loop. Sorry to interrupt there.
Nope. That's all right. It was him and Jamie Hall battling down to the bus stop. Here we go, Joe.
Side by side into here. You're going to see it. Jansen sends one in. And just a little bit too tight of racing. The number 2 finds himself sliding down to the tires. Relatively damaged as well. Let's watch on board Hall. Wow, just appears and then gone. So Hall back to third because of that. Hall still in third. Philip Lake in second ahead of him. The two teammates at least looking at a potential double podium. Don't think that Jansen's going to be too happy about that, but he's ahead of Lepisto in fifth. I'm not sure how damaged he is, though. Lepisto could still catch him with about 10 minutes to go and only 2.2 seconds on track between them.
Dare I try to finish my top 5 real quick in the GTOs?
Go for it. I think we're good now.
It hasn't changed because Michael Houghton's still sitting there in third. Ben Lafter in fourth, Joe. And he's got a solid fourth place working because it's, 6 seconds to Houghton. It's about almost 9 seconds back to Franco Scurry, who's still holding down a fifth place spot. But, yeah, he started first, and today's got to maybe feel like a little bit of an disappointment for Scurry.
There we go. Now we got the top 5 in for the GTOs. And that incident actually really separated our last close battle out on track. It was between Hall and Jansen. Olenek is catching up to Hall little by little. He's within a second now, seeing if he can get himself back onto the podium. Remember, Olenek was in second place for much of this race, and he started in third, so he at least wants to get this spot back so he can be back where he began. A bit of traffic going to help him out. Michael Houghton having to go to the outside of turn 9 to let Jamie Hall through. Looking to see who our big climbers of this race are. Honestly, for me, looking at things, Philip Lake qualified 7th out there today, Sean, and sitting in second place.
Yeah, how does he do these things? He's having a great run today.
We are in the Finger Lakes region, so
yes, we are.
I guess it's living up to his namesake. He's gonna get some traffic here as he has to slow up coming out of the inner loop. Jose Wilcox staying out of the way. And in all of this, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 DNFs I'm seeing. John Keefe has left us. Ardo Yamaki his call today. Kiradine Buafia, very sad after he was challenging for the lead. He is unfortunately not going to see the checkers. Yuko Lascala, we saw his incident. Oh, and actually we got some action out on track. Jamie Hall and Rob Olenek are together. Olenek to the inside. Down into the heel of the boot. This is for third place, the final podium spot. Hall's not going to give it up. He comes back at him into turn 9. It switches back to the inside for the Texaco Haviland Nissan, but he can't get the power down. One more left-hander to help him out, but the bravery goes to Rob Olenek, carries the speed and gets into third.
Just seemed like a bit of a loss of grip there for Hall, having trouble getting that power back down, Joe.
And you're sure that they did not take tires today?
Well, I'm not positive. Haven't watched many of the pit stops. The one or two that I watched, didn't see anybody go up on the jacks. So looks like most of these guys all opted for fuel.
So we watch our leader overall, Keith Ritchie, and see just how tough it is dealing with this traffic, having to weave in and out in some of the technical portions of this circuit. Ritchie, as usual, deals with it with aplomb. And now we're down to about 7 minutes to go on the clock. Toyota gonna overtake one more before he's done here. Villy Rolla, our other leader in the GTOs. He's got about 4 seconds over Ove Trangarade.
You know, Ove's been actually closing this down just a bit, Joe. I think it's more of a case of Ruolo being cautious, though, and letting this traffic get by in spots. Oh, that was awful close right there. Philip Blake makes it very, very close there, getting by Ruola.
Yeah, he had other traffic because that was John Hill that was being lapped by the Nissans as well. It was tough when you've got both classes being lapped.
Boy, I wonder if, with the help of a little bit of traffic here, if Trent Grade can actually make a legitimate run at him here.
I said earlier on, remember, that you just don't know with this series. Going to 8th position, Radek Sakura. And guess who he's battling with? They just can't get away from each other. Clayton McLeod. Right on board with Sakura, looking back at the blue Nissan of McLeod. This is a battle for position. Coming across the line now. McLeod close, but not looking like he's close enough to have an attack into the 90. Whoa, he closes in. And we've seen this before. Clayton must have the brake bias just jacked up on that machine. Every time he goes into a braking zone, he is the latest of the late breakers. Now he's got a slipstream. Coming down the back stretch, looks to the inside. Is it going to serve him once again into the inner loop? Yes, it does. Clayton McLeod definitively gets himself into 8th. And that might be the last battle that we have here at the end of the race.
I don't know. Trent Grade continues to close this door a little bit. It's just 2.5 seconds. I don't know. I got about 3 laps left here. What, 4? Just over 4 minutes remaining on the clock.
He's trying. He is trying. Lepisto's going to go by Ruola. It's down to 2.4. Lepisto going to feel a sting of disappointment today if things finish how they are. Remember, he started on the front row and is looking at no better than 6th right now. And remember, he is in a championship points battle for the prototype drivers fight with him and the car currently leading. And if I recall correctly, Richie's behind him in the points. Yes, indeed, 13 points behind. So this is going to narrow the gap. And we see Richie leading by about 2 seconds over Philip Lake. As he comes to the line, we are now down to 2 to go.
Following our leader in the Audis, Villarola, I'm starting to wonder if this is just him trying to create a little bit of drama here at the end, but it's 1.2 seconds now, Joe.
If I were Ola, I'd turn up the wick if I've got anything left in it.
Yeah.
This is a little too close for comfort. And these cars punch a huge hole in the air, so all Trent Grade needs to do is get a nice run up the S's.
Boy, and look at Daniel Oliva just getting right out of the way. He doesn't want any part of that.
We ride on board with Scandinavian. He was in 2nd earlier today. In that race, in the Lotus 49s, he blew his engine, threw away a potential win, threw away a championship. Can he redeem himself as they get to the top of the hill? 1.2 between them.
They're going to take the white flag next time by, Joe. This is it.
I think you're right.
Boy, Trent Grade still closing.
Trent Grade is digging.
He just got a beautiful trip through the carousel there.
Oh, and he closed even more down into the chute. He's now within striking distance.
Can you say drama?
And as that's happening, Richie's getting the white flag right now. Indeed, 1 lap to go for these cars. Traegerade started this race, holding on to the leaders, watching them start to put a bit of a gap on him, but keeping them within touch. Now it's towards the end of the race. The tires start to go off. Is the Scandinavian just that much better than the Finn on the rubber? They come through Indianapolis. Now he's right behind him, less than a car length. They'll get traffic. I believe that's Jungbluth going by. No, it's Mukanos.
Two different approaches there on that exit. Here
He's
he comes.
gaining on him. Not going to do it yet. He knows better. Knows that he doesn't want to pass him too early, give him a chance to sneak by again on the front stretch.
What's David Miller going to do here?
Oh, going to separate them just a little bit, but it hurts both of them, I think. He's got to run now. I'm keeping an eye on the leader. We'll go to him when he's close to the line. Looks to the outside. Has Ove got it? He's well past. Ove into the lead on the final lap of the race. Now to Keith Ritchie. 1 corner to go. His championship's hopes revived. The Silk Cut Jaguar Nissan comes across the line. Excuse me, the Toyota Nissan comes across the line and takes the win here at Watkins Glen.
Talk about redemption for Ove Trengrade. He has dropped Villariola, who's now fallen to over 3 seconds behind. I wonder if that broke his spirit, Joe, but boy, what a run by Trengrade here.
Is it fuel, maybe? Did he not put enough in, potentially?
Boy, we didn't even bring that up, did we? Maybe he's soft-shoeing it around. That's exactly what he's doing right now, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. He's awful slow.
Yep.
But Ove Trangerade called it right.
Wow.
It isn't just about how fast you are out on track. When it comes to a race with pit stops, strategy matters. Ove Trangerade proves it today as he comes around with 1 more corner to go. The Scandinavian didn't get the win last time, but he gets the win here in Watkins Glen for round 10 of the iRacing Kamel GT Series.
Way to go, Ove.
Let's go through our results. Apologies, we're going to have to do a quick finish today. Keith Ritchie was your winner. Philip Lake came home in second with Rob Olenek in third and Jamie Hall in fourth. Carl Jansen rounds out our top 5 with Antti Lepisto in 6th. Nicholas Mukanos was P7 with Clayton McLeod in 8th and Roderick Sikora in 9th. Top 10 rounded out by Fabian Jungbluth, Hideki Koivisto in 11th, John Hill in 12th, Dave Peterson in 13th, David Miller in 14th, and the last of the finishing Nissans is Jeff Oakley in 15th.
Okay, Ove Trengrade with the big win. Villariola, Michael Houghton in 3rd. Ben Lafter will finish 4th, and Franco Scurry going to round out the top 5. It's going to be Brian Shanahan in 6th. Marco Kika going to roll across in 7th. Riley Thompson 8th. Pedro Ferreira 9th. Jose Wilcox 10th. 11th for Spencer Kimball. Daniel Oliva will finish 12th. Caradine Boafia, tough break, 13th. 14th goes to Andy Purrs and Yuko Lascella. Big trouble early for him, ends his race, and a 15th place finish, Joe.
And we will see you next week. They're going to Alton Park. We hope you will join us, and we'll have a little bit more time for the post-race show. But in the meantime, thanks to Sean, Amjad, and Dougie, as well as the rest of the GSRC team. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.